Do you want to know what's really going on between you and this person? If you do, stay with me and see what my cards have to say. These messages may be for you. Hello and welcome to You and Them, your weekly love reading with me, Cesmina. As always, this is a collective reading, so take what resonates and leave the rest. If you're new here, this reading looks at the dynamic between you and a specific person in your life. So the first four cards look at you and your person individually, where you both stand emotionally and what you're showing each other on the surface. The next two cards look at what's hidden, feelings or thoughts that aren't being expressed, and then we'll take a look at what's shifting between you two this week and where this connection is heading. So let's get into your reading now and see what's happening between you and this person. So we're going to start with where your person currently stands in this connection. This card looks at how they're feeling about you and the relationship right now. You have the Queen of Wands. Okay. So this, to me, is a very confident energy, all right? So it's very confident, but at the same time, it is like false confidence. It's like they're playing a role almost, okay? They're like, I've got this, I'm fine and I'm in control of this connection. And I think that throughout their day, they do come across as very confident and very self-assured. They might even be a little bit playful or flirty, sort of lighthearted, but this feels like acting to me. It does feel like acting to me, like this is my acting card. So it's like they're playing the role of someone who is completely comfortable being casual, completely comfortable keeping things casual. And I don't think that's the truth. I feel like this is where your confusion is coming in, because from your perspective, I feel like you're like, are we serious or are we casual? Because the way they're showing up, I don't think matches how they feel. Because their energy doesn't feel casual to me. It feels like there's more underneath that. It feels like it's an act. And I think the reason behind this is because your person is panicking. They are panicking a little bit here. Because I feel like their feelings for you have gone way further than they were expecting, or deeper than they were expecting. And I think instead of dealing with that, instead of acknowledging that, they're trying to keep things light. They're trying to keep it fun, keep it casual, keep it flirty, because I feel like that's safer for them to do. But it's almost like the more that they try to play it cool, the more obvious it becomes that they're not as detached as they're trying to be. So your person is confident, independent, and unbothered, but I don't think that's the truth. I think that's an act. I think underneath it, they're a bit nervous, they're a bit panicked, and they're definitely feeling more for you. There's definitely more feelings here than they've told you. There's more here than they're letting on, I think. Let's go to your card now and see what's going on there. So this is where you currently stand in this connection. This card looks at your emotional energy, how you're feeling about them, and where you are mentally and emotionally. You guys have the Six of Swords. Okay, so you're thinking of running. I feel like you're going through your day at the moment, and there's this thought just on your mind like, should I just end this? Should I just leave this? And I feel like that's not coming out of nowhere. I feel like this connection has recently changed. I feel like their behavior towards you has currently changed, and I feel like you've been picking up on that, and that's why you're thinking of leaving now. I think you're very aware of your person and how they're sort of behaving. I think you're very aware of the relationship, and you can feel that it's not stable right now. And I feel like that's causing some panic. But I feel like you're also like, I really like this person, you know, I don't want to walk away. But then there's other thoughts coming through here, like, but what if they're not as invested as I am? You know, what if I'm the one that ends up getting hurt? So there is a little bit of self-protection coming through here. And I'm hearing something really clearly: leave before you get left. So there is this energy of, it's almost like you're preparing yourself for the end of this connection. You're preparing yourself to end this connection. And it's definitely not because you don't care. I think you care a lot. But I don't think you want to be in a position where you feel like rejected or like you're giving more than they are. I definitely getting that you want your energy matched right now. And I feel like it has been being matched. It's like just lately, it's not being matched. And I think because of that, you're thinking, if I leave first, at least then I'm in control. That's what the Six of Swords feels like to me. You know, I feel like you're mentally trying to prepare yourself for the end of this relationship. I really do. And it's because your person has suddenly changed their behavior. I do feel like you want to stay in this connection, but you also want to protect yourself right now. Okay, let's get a bit more information on your person now. So this card is what this person is showing you right now, okay? This card looks at their behavior and actions towards you, the energy they're expressing on the surface. You have the Five of Swords. Okay, bit of a challenging card, I'm not gonna lie. So I feel like you aren't receiving what you're giving right now. And I feel like on top of that, you're receiving things that don't feel good from your person. I feel like their behavior right now is making you feel a little bit unwanted, or like that they don't want you around. And I'm getting this very clearly, like, do you feel like you're annoying them? Even if you're not doing anything wrong, it's like their responses are like very short, very sharp. And you know what? I'm hearing a lot of, I'm fine. Yeah, you know, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's like they're very closed off right now. And I think it leaves you sitting there thinking, what have I done? Because like I said, I feel like your relationship was fine up until recently, and then it's like just a sudden change, and you have no clue where this has come from. It's like they've just shut down on you. And like I said, your person is acting right now. They are acting like they're fine. They're acting like they're confident, and you know, this is casual and it's fun. But I feel like with this Five of Swords, it's like they're contradicting how they actually feel. And that's why they're coming through as a bit sharp or a bit short or a bit frustrated. It feels to me like your person is getting overwhelmed by their feelings. Things are getting, I think, more intense than they expected. And I think instead of confronting that, instead of dealing with that, they're pulling back. They're protecting themselves. So you do actually have mirroring going on here. But I feel like the way they're behaving right now, it's giving you this horrible feeling. You know, they're being cold, they're being distant, you know, and you feel unwanted right now. But it is protection. It's like they're trying to protect themselves from how much they're actually feeling. I do have to say, there is definite avoidant energy here. I think your person isn't avoidant. Because instead of communicating, instead of like opening up, they're withdrawing, you know, they're shutting down, they're keeping things very minimal. I feel like that's coming across really bad to you. I feel like it's coming across like you're the issue. That's how you feel. You feel like you're the problem, because you're sitting there and you're thinking, what have I done? and you haven't done anything. Let's see about your card now. So this is what you're showing your person right now. This card looks at the energy you're expressing towards them, what they can see from you in this connection. You have the High Priestess. Okay, so I feel like because of the way they're being with you, you're quite quiet right now. You're quite, what's the word, reserved. You're not, I don't think you're coming in with the same energy as you were before. I think you're keeping yourself to yourself at the moment. And I feel like when you're with this person, sort of like throughout your day, you're being very careful with them. You know, I'm just getting this energy of that you don't want to say the wrong thing. You know, you don't want to cause an issue. I feel like you already feel like you're the issue. You don't want to make whatever this is worse. And I do feel like you're panicking here, which, you know, it makes sense with what they're showing you. Because it's like you're getting all these, I'm fine, and you're sitting there thinking, no, you're not. I know you're not. It's not fine. We're not fine. So there is some frustration coming through here. Like, you know, what's wrong with you? You know, why are you acting like this? What's happened? We were fine. I do keep hearing that. We were fine. I really don't think you know what's caused this sudden change in their behavior. Because again, if they're an avoidant, you know, they haven't told you, I don't think. And I don't think you're saying this either. I think you're holding all of this in. I think you're watching your person right now. You're trying to sort of figure it out without bringing it up. But yeah, there's this energy of like they're so out of character right now and you don't know what to do because you've never seen them like this before and you don't know what to say for the best. So I think you've decided that what's best is to keep yourself to yourself, to be very composed, to be very sort of quiet. But even though you're quiet, I do feel like you're watching and you're very sensitive to everything they do. I do feel like you're picking up on everything and you know that something isn't right. But you're not saying right now, you're just watching and waiting, I think. Let's yeah, you're trying to understand what's happened. Okay, let's go to your person's next card now. So this is what your person isn't showing you. This card looks at hidden feelings or thoughts they may be keeping to themselves. You have the Four of Pentacles. Okay, so this makes a lot of sense to me. So like I said, I was getting avoidant energy for your person. And I am getting fear from your person, okay? They care about you and they care about this. They care about this relationship. And I think that's why all of this bravado is coming out, okay, with that Queen of Wands energy. And that sort of distant energy and that sort of cold energy with the Five of Swords, okay? I don't think they expected this. I feel like this connection is way more serious than they planned for, okay? Because with your person, I'm hearing, oh my God, I'm invested. I actually care about this person. This is getting serious. But then straight after that, there's almost like there is fear here. It's like I'm hearing if I lose them, it's going to hurt so much. And if they hurt me, that's really, really going to hurt. So I think they're trying to figure out what they do with that, you know. I think they go into protection mode. I think they go quiet and they go distant. I feel like they're holding themselves back, you know, they're hiding their feelings. They're trying to control how much they give because they don't. There is a lot of mirroring here. Just like you, they don't want to be made a fool of, you know. Very strong mirroring energy between you two because I feel like you both have been hurt before, Both of you, I think, know what it feels like to get attached and then get hurt after that. So you're both trying to protect yourselves here. It's just in different ways. And I think your person, they protect themselves by going distant. And I think with that acting energy, with the Queen of Wands, they're trying to convince themselves right now, I don't care that much. This is fine. It's casual. I feel like the more they do that, the more they realize it's not true. And that's where the frustration is with the Five of Swords there. So I feel like you've got a person here who's holding on to their feelings really tightly, like they're keeping their cards very close to their chest here. And I think that's because they know with you, they've got something to lose now. And that scares them so much because they're so scared of being hurt. Let's go to you now and see what's going on there. But a lot of mirroring here. I think you're very similar. Let's see what you're not showing them now. This card looks at feelings or thoughts that you may be keeping to yourself in this connection. You have the Three of Pentacles. Oh, I get it. Okay. We had this in a you and them not too long ago, actually. This actually explains that question that's been coming up in this reading. Are we serious or are we just casual? And I feel like that question means a lot to you because you're already thinking long term. You aren't looking at this as something casual or fun. You're finding this Queen of Wands energy from them really concerning, really worrying, because you're invested. You're wanting to see where this goes. You're wanting something long term, but I don't think you've said that. And I don't think you have felt like you needed to say that up until this point. I think up until this point, you felt like you were on the same page. It felt mutual. I think you do know that you're invested in this, And then their behavior has suddenly changed. I think it was like a silent understanding, or you thought it was a silent understanding between you that you were something serious. Maybe they were acting like long term. I mean, like I said, the Queen of Wands energy, it felt to me like this is so different from what you know, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do with this because you're invested now, and you thought they were as well, and their behavior has just changed. And I feel like there's frustration here because now you're thinking, please don't tell me I've been wasting my time here. Because I think that would really annoy you, but also it's also like there's fear underneath there. It's like, if this isn't real, this is really going to hurt me. I feel like I've been led on. I feel like I think this is something that it's not. So now I feel like you're in this position where you're invested, but you're not saying it. And the reason you aren't saying it is because the stakes are so high for you. That's why you've gone so quiet. That's why you're showing the High Priestess now, You're trying to be detached. You're trying to match their energy. But matching their energy is really freaking you out, because if you match their energy, it's like this connection is casual and you're invested for the long term. If it's casual, that's really going to hurt because you care so much. And I think that's also why you're hesitating to say anything. You don't want to say the wrong thing because you care so much. You don't want to push them away. You don't want to ruin this connection. And that's why you're hiding this. You're hiding the part of you that can see a future here. And I think you're going to continue hiding that until you know where they stand. But their behavior it's like your guard has gone right up with their behavior. Okay. So there's a lot going on here. Let's get your next cards now. So we're moving into the part of the reading now where we look at what's changing between you and and this person this week. What do we have? We have the Two of Swords. Okay, so right now, something's not right here, okay? But nothing is being said. Okay, I think at the moment, there's like this feeling, there's like this elephant in the room. No one's saying anything, but you both know that something's not right. You know, you guys aren't being normal. I feel like it's very quiet with you two, where it usually isn't. And I think this week you're going to be sitting there, you're going to be thinking to yourself, I want to ask them what's wrong. You know, I want to talk about this. But then at the same time, you're holding yourself back. You know, you don't want to say the wrong thing. You don't want to make it worse. And so you're going to hold yourself back. And then your person, okay, is doing the exact opposite, okay? They're pulling back. They're protecting themselves. You know, they're thinking, I care too much. This is getting intense. I need to keep myself under control and keep this under control. I need time to think. So they're going to hold back too. So nothing is actually moving because both of you are waiting. I think you're both waiting for a signal from the other. But neither of you are actually saying what needs to be said. So I feel like throughout the week there is going to be building tension between you two, but I feel like that's needed. I do feel like this waiting is needed. This silence between you, you're not sort of confronting it yet, that is needed. And I feel like it's going to be a lot more extreme on your side, I'm going to be honest. And with the Two of Swords, basically, eventually one of you is going to have to make the decision to say something. You know, it's either say something or keep the silence. Because with the Two of Swords, this isn't actually movement forward. This is just, I think, the silent understanding between you. Let's get the next card and see where this is going. I think it's going to be you, if I'm being honest. Ace of Wands. Okay. So, like I said, that tension is building, okay? And I feel like you wake up every morning and it's still there. And like I said, I do think this is going to be you. I do think you'll get to a point where you just can't take it anymore. It's built up, you know, the frustration, the irritation, the worry, the commitment, you know, to a future that you don't know if it's there anymore. And I feel like all of these emotions are sort of building up because you do care about this, you know. And I feel like you're just going to think to yourself, I need to say something. And I think that's because you want to know where you stand. You can't just keep guessing. So this card to me feels like you biting the bullet. This is you starting that conversation. But with you and your person, I'm going to be totally honest. I don't think you two are the type to have a heart-to-heart conversation. I think that's too intense for both of you. So I don't think you're going to be laying absolutely everything out on the table. But I do feel like you're going to be asking that question that's on your mind. Are we serious or are we just casual? And the way you're asking it is very important. Like I said, you're going to be mirroring their energy. Even though it really hurts you to do, you're going to be mirroring that casual energy to protect yourself, okay? To sort of test the waters. So, you know, you're going to be asking very, very casually, you know, where you stand without letting them know how upset you are. So you're going to be saying, you know, are we serious? You know, are we casual? What's going on here? I don't mind either way. Because yeah, you're trying to match their energy. You are mirroring each other here again. I think you two do this unconsciously. I think, you know, they pull back their energy, you do the same. You know, they act casual, you act casual. So in this conversation that you're going to be having this week, you know, I think you are playing it cool. You know, you're laid back. You're not letting on how much this means to you. You know, with that Three of Pentacles, you're hiding your hope for a future. And I think that's because you're scared to let them know that that's what you want, because their behavior has just thrown you, you know? I think you did have much more confidence in this relationship up until now. So the way that you're approaching this conversation is you're going to be very light. You're going to be very laid back. And I think underneath that, you're going to be stressing out, but your poker face is going to be really good. You know, if you're worrying that you're going to let on, if you're worrying that this is just going to get too much for you and you're just going to blow out all your feelings, I do see you being very controlled here and keeping a good poker face and protecting yourself, if that's something that you want to do. Let's go to your next card now. I'm very curious about the next one, see how this sort of plays out. What do we have? Strength. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is after this conversation, okay? And this is after you've bitten that bullet and you've asked the question, are we serious or are we just casual? And I think the second you say casual, the second you ask that question, it's like that snaps your person out of whatever they've been doing. You know, that distance, that being cold, that being cool, whatever they're trying to do. It's like suddenly they realize what this has been doing, you know. I think they're going to freak out because I'm hearing in my head like, what sort of thing. I don't think they actually expected you to go there. And I think the second you ask that question, the second you ask if you two are casual, they're like, no, 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 no. Because I think they realize as soon as you say it, that they could actually lose you. Because you are prepared. You know, you are getting ready to run, you know, leave before you get left. That was the energy I was getting for you. And I think when you ask this question, it's a real wake-up call for your person. Because they're like, oh no, of course, this isn't casual. You know, what am I doing? This is my fault. I've been acting weird. I've been acting distant. And what's quite ironic here is what they've been trying to avoid. You know, they're now right in that territory they were trying to avoid. Their fear has actually come true because now they're on that line of losing you. Remember, we said before, they are scared of losing you because they know that's going to hurt. But now they're on that line because their behavior has brought that about. So I think when you bring up this question with strength, it is all about handling something carefully. And I think they're actually handling you like a bomb that's about to go off when you say this, because they're freaking out. Because they're like, oh my God, you know, what have I done? Like, you know, they're nearly out the door. So I do think they're trying to stay calm. You know, they're trying to fix this. They're trying not to panic, but internally they're definitely doing that. And at the same time, I do see you in strength here as well. You know, you're not losing control either. You've got that poker face on. You're staying calm. You're staying composed. But I feel like this conversation is all about pride, I think, for you two. You know, it's both of you thinking, I won't be made a fool of. You know, I'm not going to sit here, you know, and be completely committed if you're not. And again, with that mirroring, I do think you two are very, very similar. But with you, I think you're very good at sitting there and thinking, you know, you're going to match my energy. Or I'm ready to go, you know? But I do think once you bring up that question, your person is going to panic and be like, no, of course not, of course not. So it is going to be a wake-up call for them once you bite that bullet and once you ask that question. So yeah, a really important thing for you to do, I think. Let's get the next card and see where this is going. What do we have? Okay. Ooh, it's the Six of Pentacles. I was a bit scared there, flipping that one. This wake-up call, okay, is balancing everything out for you, okay? It's like, again, you and your person aren't the type to sit down and have a heart to heart, you know, everything out on the table. No, it's just you ask the question and it's going to be like, no, of course not, sort of thing. They're calm, they answer the question. And of course, you will need more than that to feel stable in this connection again, because you do have one foot out the door now, because with that Queen of Wands that they're giving you, that confident, that, you know, acting single when they're with someone, you were like, okay, you know, I've got to get ready because, you know, leave before I get left. So it's going to take a lot of effort from your person, I think, to rebuild this connection, but they are doing this silently, okay? You know, it's not going to be a big sort of romantic gesture. I just don't think you two are the type to do that. But it's going to be very sort of small things, you know. I feel like they're going to be texting you more, you know, checking in on you more, being more present and, you know, more interested. And I feel like I'm seeing a lot of like short texts. I feel like they're going to be a lot longer now. It's very specific. Basically, there's going to be more effort there, you know, there's going to be more from your person because you have, you know, you've threatened them with losing you, and that is not something they wanted to happen. They just got a little lost, I think, in their self-protecting that they were doing. So once you've sort of woken them up, they are going to be showing you how much you mean to them. I do think you're going to have to look for this. You know, it's going to be small, it's going to be little things throughout the day. But I think once you start noticing them, you will see there are quite a few things there. You are going to notice some more effort there. And I think once you see that effort, you're going to be matching that energy, because I think you naturally do. You do naturally match their energy, and you're going to be giving more. And then I think before you know it, you two are going to be back to normal, because I think that's something you really want. You want to go back to normal right now. And this card is basically you two meeting each other in the middle. But yeah, this is coming from that scare, that moment of, I could actually lose you. I could lose this. And I feel like that's because in that moment you both realized, you know, this is what I want. And I'm hearing don't go anywhere. That's really nice. I'm hearing don't go anywhere. But no one's saying that, you know. They're just, I think your person is just showing it. I think that would be a little too much for them. But yeah, a lot more texting, more effort, more presence, you know, no more distance. And I think they're going to be a lot more self-aware about what they do and how that's affecting you. I think there is a possibility here that they think maybe you don't really notice, or, you know, that you'll think it's not about me. Maybe they've just had a bad day. I don't think that's how your brain works. I think you think that you've done something. So I think your person is going to be enlightened this week as well by what their behavior sort of does. But yeah, this is really them saying, I'm here and I care, with little gestures throughout the day. I think that's it for this card. Let's get your next one now. This is your last card, actually. Okay, so we have the King of Swords as where you stand at the end of the week. So I feel like at this point, you've got rid of the confusion. I think things are starting to make sense to you at the end of the week. You know, I don't think you're overthinking anymore. Because I think after that conversation with the Strength card, you know enough now. Like I said, you're too avoidance, I think. Or you have avoidant tendencies. You both have that. So it wasn't a huge heart to heart. It's like you got enough out of that conversation to know where you stand now. It's like, okay, you know, I see what's going on here. I understand now. And I think because of that, by the end of the week, you feel a lot more in control of yourself than you do now. Because I do feel like you're worried at the moment. You are panicking about their change in behavior. And I feel like by the end of the week, that's not happening anymore. You know, you're in control. You've got your head back on straight, you know. I don't think you're reacting to everything they do either by the end of the week. I think you're just seeing things as they are. Um, and even though I think it gets explained, I do see you pulling back from your person because this did hurt you. So I think you might need to create a little bit of distance there yourself just so that you can recover. Um, but the distance is different now. It's not what's going on here. It's not what does this mean. It's more like, okay, I get it. We've had the talk. I know what this is now. So I do feel like you're much more confident than you are now by the end of the week. You know, you're not anxious anymore. You know where you stand. And I do think you're someone who knows their worth because, especially with that High Priestess card that was coming through for you, you pull back and you observe. You're not going to overcompensate or panic. So, at least not externally. I think you hide that quite well. So I feel like the end of the week, you know what's going on. You're clear about what's going on, but there is knowledge here that they did hurt you by doing that. You know, and you're going to need to create some distance there to, I think, recover. All right, that's all that's coming through here. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope this gave you something to think about and I hope that it helped you in some way. But for now, I will see you in my next reading. Take care.